And I just want to make a note. I went to a community meeting this past weekend where a community organizer brought us together because a lot of people just assume we're blue, it's fine, no need to really, bring out the big guns. She's reminding us that, it's getting redder. You said earlier we have a Republican governor. It's true. And what he is bringing to the table so far has been pretty intense. We've got Ben Jealous, who we're trying to get elected. So we're trying to shake people of that mentality. We are actually at risk. Right now, we do have that supermajority, but we are in danger of losing it. There are, several seats that are at risk. So just want to mention that to anybody who's, been thinking, who might be in Maryland and thinking about taking their efforts to another state. Please stay in Maryland. We need you. And anyone else who's thinking, oh, Maryland doesn't need any help, we definitely do. I think maybe people have, I don't want to say taken advantage, but you can never take that for granted. I think that you're a blue state. You have to work for that. So just want to say that. As far as particular initiatives that I'm interested in, I have a mental health background. I worked for 4 years as a mental health therapist. And then as mentioned, I for at least 15 years have been doing community organizing. So, I've seen people in their, darkest hours and their lowest moments. And so a lot of the things that I would like to see are things that I think would help people in their, especially surrounding mental health, addictions. Something that I think it's been brought up in our state, but we haven't pushed it over the finish line. Something that I'd really like to see is supervised consumption sites. These are a little bit controversial because people think, drugs, they're illegal. We shouldn't, why should we have a space where we allow people to do drugs? But in places that have utilized this, they have seen, deaths go down. They've seen money is saved because one of my underlying themes that goes in a lot of my ideology is it isn't just good for people to make people-centered policies. A lot of the times it's better for the overall economy and, for saving us money. So with something like this, when you have supervised consumption sites, there are less times where people are overdosing. So there are less times where you have to rush them to the hospital in an ambulance. Less Narcan has to be utilized. And again, obviously, the benefits to the individuals speak for themselves. No one, I assume no one wants to hopefully overdose on purpose and have a fatality. So that's one that I'm particularly interested in. Overall, I think I would just like to see access a bit easier. Even for people with insurance, it can still be, great tribulation involved in just accessing help. And when you're a depressed person, when you're experiencing any kind of mental health issue, it's just even more difficult to access that help. So I don't have a particular policy in mind at the moment, although that is something that's an area that I'm interested in doing some more development, is just easier access to treatment, more affordable access to treatment. So those are a couple of things that come to mind.
That's really good to know that we should really still be thinking about and focusing on Maryland and not assuming that it's safe. I think the same thing is probably true of Illinois. We sort of take it for granted, but obviously since we have an Republican governor at the moment, things could still, a terrible Republican governor, things could certainly flip.
And with the census coming up, I don't remember how many judges are coming up for appointment. I want to say 5. There's a lot on the table, So I suspect it's similar in Illinois. So yeah, we can't say that enough.
So you've gone to candidate training and you've been endorsed by some great organizations, including Run for Something. Can you talk a little bit about just being a first-time candidate and being the kind of person who's been encouraging other people to run for office? Are there things about running for office itself that have been surprising or that you'd like to make sure that people know?
Well, one thing I would say that I didn't anticipate, when you run for office, the whole family runs for office. So, my husband and I had the talk before I ran, but just can't say that enough, how it really does impact every family member. My mother-in-law is now an avid postcard writer, and she comes to all our campaign events. So I just think that's important to know, and you have to make sure everyone's all in, because otherwise I think it could be really easy for there to be rifts in the family. So I think that's important. Another thing, I would say, do not count anybody who says that they will help you before you run. Do not, count that as gospel. I think a lot of people are really well intentioned and may tell you ahead of time that they'll be there to help you. But I would say, don't be surprised if a lot of that falls through. Just the nature of the beast. People have their own lives. Things happen. So, I would say I've only had a fraction of the support that that was told I would be given beforehand. And it's okay. We've worked it out, but, I think that's good to know. And just expect the unexpected. It's a really wild ride. I've been working as a volunteer for about a decade on various campaigns, but I learned more in the first 6 months than I did for sure in 10 years as a volunteer. So, I would just say that even if you think you know what it's like, you most likely do not really understand. There are just things you can't understand until you're the candidate. I would say also that you have to make sure you can refill your bucket of longevity, right? It's very easy to get disheartened, I think, once you start to see the inner workings of, kind of establishment politics. It can be very disheartening. So I would just say, make sure you bring in everything that energized you before, everything that inspired you, and all the people that inspired you. Make sure you keep them close, because it can, just like in social work and in so many other industries, it can be very easy to burn out. So make sure you have people who can help you get re-energized, and don't give up, because I don't want to scare anyone away, but it can be, these are the times that try men's souls, and you have to be able to re-energize yourself.
Listeners, all of these apply to podcasting as well. Especially the whole family ends up doing it. All right. Are there any other things that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
I would just say, listeners, please consider, if you haven't already, volunteering for a candidate. Even if you think to yourself, oh, golly, I don't have very much time to donate, or I've never done it before, I don't know what I'm doing. Trust me, if you go to a candidate and say, I've got 10 minutes a week, what can I do for you? Or I know nothing, is that okay? Yes. The answer will always be yes. There will always be something for you to do. It doesn't matter how much or how little time or experience you have. We can't do it without community. When you're going up against people who have been in the business longer, when you have very little resources and money and time, it just takes a village. So if you haven't already, please consider helping the local candidate. Or a not-so-local candidate, AllisonForDelegate.com. we can find you something to do.
Excellent. And if they don't have time, but they do have money, how can they help your campaign that way?
Oh, yay. Best question ever. www.AllisonForDelegate.com. There's a link there. Just click on the donate button and it'll take you to Act Blue. Or you can just go to Act Blue and search for my name, Allison Berkowitz. And thank you so much. We appreciate every single dollar. We make them go a long way.
All right. Well, Allison, thank you so much. Thank you so much for running. I think it's really important, and I know there's a lot else going on in your life, but I think it's so great that you are stepping up to run for office, and thank you for talking to me as well. I'm glad we finally got you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking with me, and thanks for your thanks. It's nice. It can be a thankless job. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And we will be watching the results in the Maryland 7th quite closely on November 6th.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Welcome back to Two Broads Talking Politics. As usual, I am one of your hosts, Sophie, and I'm here with your other host, Kelly. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, everyone.
And tonight we are joined by Christy Inskip. She is a Democrat running for Oregon House of Representatives from District 7. Welcome, Christy.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show.
Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you came to be running for the Oregon House of Representatives.
Absolutely. This is my first time running. I really am running to fight for regular folks to make sure that everyone has a voice in the Capitol. I grew up in a rural area without health insurance, and my dad was a mechanic who owned his own business, and my mom was a teacher's aide who worked for the school district until she went back to school and became a nurse. And I really knew what it was like to grow up struggling financially. When my dad had a heart attack, we almost lost everything because he couldn't work for a very long time. We were very lucky, though, because our neighbors pulled together to help us. And I think, going through that experience really showed me how important it is to be compassionate and to care for those in need and to make sure that everyone has a safety net. As an adult, I am part of a working family. Like most Oregonians, my husband and I both have to work full time to make ends meet. And I am very acutely aware of the issues that working families in Oregon face. I am also an ACME union member. I work at Lane County Public Health. And last year, because my employer failed to negotiate a fair contract, I actually joined my union sisters and brothers and went on strike to fight for fair, equitable living wages, especially for women, and fair work conditions, fair benefits, and retirement security. I believe really strongly in fighting for regular folks and making sure that the voice of the 99% is heard instead of the 1%, and really seeking to fight for the interests of regular folks and not special interests of corporations. I have a background in public health. I have a master's in public health from Loma University in Southern California. And my major areas of study were, health education and environmental and occupational health. And, since I graduated with my master's, I really have worked over 12 years in local and state government. And I'm really passionate about serving my communities, really working to better our communities. And that's really just been my passion my whole life. I am running for state representatives really to make sure that everyone's interests are represented in the Capitol. That really is what it comes down to for me. I did decide in 2016, after the election, decided at that time that after seeing the results of the election, sort of from local all the way to the federal level, just being disappointed and frustrated and really feeling like our voices weren't being represented. And so I decided at that time that I was going to run for something. And then last year, when our Lane County commissioner of the district that I live in East Lane County in Oregon, when that county commissioner stepped down, I stepped up and applied for that position. So he stepped down midterm, which meant that they were going to appoint someone instead of having an election. And so I was one of 27 applicants at that time and was one of the 9 finalists, but was not selected. But after that, some folks talked to me about, what I was going to run for next. And really this was about, for me, the right race at the right time. Last year, my opponent actually led the